amongst most things for the Mercedes that I wanted to do, one of them was kind of designing an intake, kind of open air intake. And this was like the 6th iteration of the intakes I was looking at. This is the one that I felt worked best. The transition, the way it looked in appearance, and how it flowed. Prior to actually, making a final product, I had to do a lot of prototyping, and so I just used whatever filament I had. It's a 3D print. Obviously, this is just a regular old filament. It has no special qualities. So as you can see, for prototyping under heat conditions, even at idle, like it doesn't hold, which I wasn't planning for it to hold anything. But this is actually one of the results after creation. Functions as it uses a Mopar air filter, as you can see up there. Obviously transitions to the OEM coupler, and then back to the hard pipes. Just really simple design. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's pretty simple. Why I went with the Mopar filter is because, number one, cost effectiveness on these filters. They're pretty cheap. They're come from obviously an OEM manufacturer. I don't know who makes Mopar or Dodge's filters for them, but I'm sure, being that it's for an OEM car, that it's going to hold up pretty well. And it actually is extremely similar to the shape of the OEM airboxes on the M278 and the M157. Along with that, it has this port right here. I'm assuming it's going to be for, like, a vacuum source for the emission system. But in my case, I'm going to use this actually for the intake air temp sensor. That's actually on the factory airbox. So what I'll probably do is like 3D print an attachment that goes on here on a tight seal, and maybe put like a small zip tie or a small worm clamp. I'm trying to make it clean. Here I'm using Protopasta. They have their HT PLA. It's supposed to be high temp. It's pretty interesting concept. What it is that prints it in PLA, which is really easy for those that are familiar with 3D printing. And after you finish printing it, you can bake it, which it hardens it and makes it essentially almost heat resistant to a certain degree, and extremely hard. This is my 10th scale. I just wanted to play with the actual filament itself, so I made a really miniature 3D printed version. I got this part a little too close to the coil, which is perfectly fine, but once it actually cured, you can tell that it's essentially, by my hand at least, I can't break it. There's nothing I can, and for many of you guys that know PLA, it's pretty easy to break. I mean, even on like this stuff, you can hear it already bending and crushing. This stuff you cannot do that to, no matter how hard you try. While this stuff is printing, I got a lot of work in my hands. I still gotta wire up my CNC machine, so I got a couple of things I'm going to do. I got my motor wired up. This is going to be controlling the axis for the X, Y, and Z, along with my A axis. I'm going to get into like creating a couple of things. I'm really big on creating things for my own self, with the potential of possibly creating things for others, as long as the market's there. Extremely messy as my room is, I think I'm kind of like to goof around. One of them is, obviously t-shirt creation. My wife is really big into that, so I always like to make things for the community, like the DSM community. One of my extra sources of income was creating center caps for the DSM guys. And so this is kind of what my caps look like, with my logo. So it'll be just, obviously whatever logo the customer wanted, made out of a 3D resin. So this is not like a FDM print. Is actually a prototyping. I actually made a wing riser for my dad's RCF. So pretty cool stuff. But I'm always, sitting on Fusion 360 and sketching things up. So if I ever have interest or ideas of things to make, I usually kind of sketch it up and see if I can make it. And now that I have my CNC machine, it's going to be sky's the limit for this. Like I said, this is for my personal use. I'm not trying to compete with anybody or trying to start anything, because I know there's a couple other companies that make stuff for that. I'm not saying this is what I'm going to sell. I'm just saying this is what I want to do on my personal car. But there might be other things on the market that I might come out with, you know, on a CNC machine, you know, accessories, things of that nature. So I'll post a link to my page, RE Dynamics, so you can see some of my work that I've done, you know, including the spacer I talked about and some other things like that. So if you're ever interested or have any things that you guys might need taken care of on a custom basis, just let me know.